Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Paradigm Entrepreneurs podcast with myself, Eric Nemhard. I've got my second lovely guest here. This is Leila Najim, very good old friend of mine. We've known each other for several years now, so it's great to see her transitioning from when she was studying to going into the work life, and then now being a yoga teacher. And she's currently based out in Italy. And go ahead, Leila, if you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you're currently doing.
Namaste, and thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure to take part to this podcast. I really appreciate your work here. I'm Leila. I'm a yoga teacher since a few years now. I live in Milan. I was born and raised here. My background, like educational background, is in political science, and I've been working in a corporate environment, in business development, and business management really for a few years before I decided to dedicate myself totally to this passion of mine and this lifestyle, which is the discipline of yoga. And here I am now. I've been doing this for a few years, doing this a little bit in many places, from India to the UK. So I'm glad to be here. I've been knowing Ricky since, I would say, 15 years at least.
Maybe more than that. Definitely. Yeah, like mid 2000s, something like that.
I was a teenager.
And I was not long. yeah. And I was not long. I was about 20, 21, something like that. Just giving away my age a little bit there, but there's no problem. All right. So, how would you describe the spiritual and energetic shift that we're going through right now? Just to give a bit of background, because in terms of the podcast and the conversations that I want to have around it is, in terms of how life has been over the last. When I speak energetic shift, I think you're aware with it, but maybe some listeners wouldn't be. So maybe it's post 2012, or even perhaps before that, arguably. I guess in terms of shift now, the pandemic that we're currently in, that's a major shift globally, because I think it's the first time perhaps ever that the whole world has been in a transitional or transformational kind of, space because of one kind of thing. So just explain to me what in your own terms, how you think, or how you could describe the changes been since before the spiritual shift and now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Well, my feeling is that we were born on Earth in a very particular time, the 80s, 90s, when the technological revolution changed a lot of circumstances all over the world. The fact that we could travel the world and see and connect with people all over the world and exchange different cultures, and I think our mentality toward our role in this planet as a species has shifted a lot. Before, it felt like we were here to use the planet, and now we feel like we're all here together and we are part of it. There is much more sensitivity toward environmentalism, and I feel like this pandemic has awakened a lot of people to themselves, because for many years the capitalistic lifestyle brought us to just go out and spend money and think that money is the source of happiness. But even if you have money but you can't do anything because your liberties are compromised, then money is not happiness. So I think this specific time, this crisis is reflecting an inner crisis that was long due. I think that as you called it, the paradigm shift, your podcast as well is just describing describing this specific particular now, where there are many timelines that are being created, and I think there are some people that are resisting the change, but the very essence of our nature is change. Everything is always in transformation. Nothing is ever the same. We change daily. Our bodies change daily. I can feel it in my practice with yoga. Like there are never twice the same positions. Like because you feel it differently. So you grow as you go on. And I think that at this specific time, this pandemic has given us time for ourselves. Even if a lot of people didn't want that, it was necessary and it was the right time for it. We are due to evolve or die. So I guess that we either start doing this work or there's nowhere that we can go. And I think even if it's hard, it's all over the world the same, and more and more people are accepting it and embracing it for what it is, which is just work. And it's the most important thing that we can do is working on ourselves and self-development. There's
Someone's come to join you for the interview. It looks. No, that's interesting. To touch on a couple of things that you mentioned, that is fascinating because I myself, I've always been kind of, I don't know, alert to other, let's say, energies or other ways of life, technically speaking. But perhaps the term inner work is not something that I was familiar with until, I guess I'd say, pretty recently, maybe the last year or two, for instance. Obviously, I know you want to obviously maintain your health and you want to, kind of be in a healthy state, with spiritually, mentally, and physically as well. But the kind of term inner work and, being aware of certain particular nuances, like for you to say you feel there's no two positions the same within yoga when you're expressing yourself. But that's not a concept that really would have made sense to me until very recently, but it's so true. It's kind of like, I'm probably going to butcher the quote, but one of the quotes from one of these yogis that say, you never step into, I think it was Gandhi, you never step into the same river twice. It's that kind of, and that's the same analogy I'd use in terms of where we are now, energetically speaking, as a collective. We've had crises in the world before, whether it's wars or any sorts of other disasters that have happened in particular isolation. But for us to be all experiencing something at the same time, which has touched everybody, even if perhaps you weren't subjected to the illness yourself, the reactions from the governments and stuff would have definitely impacted everybody's lives. So it's very interesting. It's interesting to, on a spiritual level, which I think, because it'd be easy for someone that's perhaps not switched on or that doesn't want to acknowledge it to just say, oh, well, it's just something that just came out of a lab somewhere and everyone's kind of, and this is the reaction. When I think fundamentally speaking, it was something that we had to go through in order to evolve, or in order to to go to the next step of evolution collectively. So, and maybe it's more comforting to me to think of it that way, because it is a bit disturbing to think there's guys out there cooking stuff up in a lab that can kind of, I mean, to what ends, who knows why. But again, to me, my firm belief is that it's something that we had to go through collectively, and we are going through it. And on the other side of it is going to be, the next level human experience.
Yeah, I feel like it was long due, and the world where we live right now with internet and the tools of communication and the access to information have never been like that before.
Yeah.
In humanity's history, as we know. So I guess that we have a chance now to really feel the sense of unity, of being all here in the same place, in the same situation. And of course, it may feel that we are isolated, because the way that this crisis is being approached by governments all over the world is closing off people in their houses, and then many people are going through hard depression because they have to start to do the work with themselves. So I feel like for many years, and everyone in the Western countries especially, we've been escaping ourselves. We've been like looking for entertainment and pleasure outside of ourselves, without realizing that actually the source of happiness is not in pleasure, which is something that we look for outside of ourselves, but it's a state of being, and we have to nurture and cultivate this state of being inside. There are two different hormones.
Hormones, yeah, that's right.
The dopamine is that which is given by external pleasure,
Gratification,
gratification, and then there is serotonin that is given from a state that comes from within. So I feel like okay, it's not easy to be, isolated and alone, and sometimes it really is hard for people, and it gets to through, like it has to go through some states of depression until you realize that you have everything that you need. You have experience for each and every one is unique, and we have this body, we have to explore it and know it and master it and control it. We have this mind, and we have to do the same work. We have to explore it and master it, and once we realize that everything that we actually really need is inside, and of course we need some external things like food to nurture the body to feel healthy, but then we can start to be in harmony with others. Only the moment that we are in harmony within, and you mentioned the parts of the being, which are the body, mind, and soul. So if there is like any dissonance between these parts, there will be disharmony, and then there will be suffering.
You'll feel it in the physical realm, basically, one way or another, if you're perhaps not doing the work, or if there's something that needs to be resolved. And again, these are terms which are, I mean, I've been aware of it, but it's something which are only perhaps in the last, maybe I'd say 2, maybe 3 years that has kind of been on my radar, but definitely in the last 12 months, it's been something that's become more maybe acutely at the front of me, like, hold on, you have to, I don't know, do the inner work, whether it's meditation, breath work, I don't know, like resolving your own issues that's within yourself. Cool. So what, in your opinion, I think we might have touched on it anyway, but I've got a series of questions. What, in your opinion, is the role of the pandemic has played in the shift and the spiritual awakening? I mean, we've probably touched on it, but just to elaborate.
Well, the point is, like, it actually made us face our fears, and I think everyone has gone through last year a very hard one, and everyone had a very specific experience. I think no one was really prepared to finding themselves either alone or with some people with whom, like, in what kind of closed environment, because a lot of people that I know live in cities, and in cities you may not afford a big house with gardens and all the comforts. So a lot of people find themselves working in very small studios, and maybe they had kids, and it's very tough. So everyone, I think, with the pandemic, had to face very difficult times, and basically face their own fears, whether it is abandonment, isolation, boredom, or and I think in this sense it has been key to study.
I think presented us with the opportunity, right? Because if things had carried on how it was, I guess, pre-pandemic, we would have been happy, I don't know, sedating ourselves or just
you would be numbed with some entertainment, as
pastime,
for pleasure somewhere else, and then this situation actually gave her a sense of how simple it can be to be happy, you know, just being in harmony with yourself, and then everything else will reflect as that. So I think it's just, for me personally, my work last year and the pandemic awoke a sense of like getting connected to the natural cycles, because I could observe much more what would be the effects of the seasons, what would be the effects of the moon cycles over my state of mind and my body. So I guess that, as for me, that has been a very
rewarding. I don't know. Yeah.
So I think in many ways, a lot of people have discovered other things, maybe creativity, or like finding time for themselves, playing music or painting and stuff. So
I think at the same time that would have perhaps made a lot of people uncomfortable as well. But I guess your long-term comfort is on the other side of your uncomfortability.
And that is part of my teachings in yoga. You know, you are uncomfortable in a posture until you break through, and then through the breath and the connection to your breath, then you can sustain yourself and just find ease in the discomfort. And then you can stay there for as long as you want. You find your alignment, you're steady, and so sometimes it's just that resistance that is typical of the mind. The mind resists change. The mind doesn't trust what it does not control. So the whole work that I promote with yoga, like I truly believe that as a discipline is very whole, and it offers so many practices and techniques that can help the self to develop. And so it's about finding alignment within. And
I was going to say, as a side note, this isn't something I prepared, but it's something that's kind of come to me now. So what would your advice be to somebody who's perhaps not been aware of, I don't know, metaphysics or kind of going within themselves, and they're perhaps not comfortable at the moment with life, but they don't know how to start or where to start or how they would go about, I don't know, being comfortable with themselves or discussing any of the things give me like maybe a three-step process to introducing this into your life. How would you go about it?
Well, I feel the first steps would be to start to listen to your breath, because the breath, if you think about it, is the source of life. We are born with an inhalation and we leave with an exhalation. The power of this simple thing that we do in automatic without even realizing how important it is. Most of us are unaware of their way of breathing, and they live unconsciously with breathing patterns that do not serve their state of being. Like, through the breath, you can calm yourself down. If you're agitated, if something makes you nervous, if you had a panic attack and you come back to observing your breath, you can calm down your nervous system and get back to a state of calm. So I guess that the first step, even if you're not in a panic, but you just want to start to learn about your working, your body, and then the breath, and which is the source of what in yoga we call prana, which is the life force, the energy. And we can cultivate the prana, we can cultivate this inner energy through the awareness and control of the breath. The second thing that comes pretty connected to observing the breath is learning to control your mind. So if you have your mind full of thoughts, and often we tend to have the same thoughts pattern. So we repeat ourselves the same things over and over in our minds until we are absolutely convinced about them. And many people, they live their life thinking that they are their thoughts. But not their thoughts. We are separated from the thoughts. So it's the breath helps us to get that distance from our thoughts, and we start to observe them with neutrality. And in that sense, we start to work on non-judgment. So we don't have to judge ourselves for having those thoughts, and detachment. So we do not attach to those thoughts, so they do not affect us, and we can observe if those thoughts are serving our growth or they're detrimental to our growth. And then the third thing is the body, like stay active, keep yourself motivated to do every day a little bit of activity. And it doesn't have to be a super powerful workout. If you like powerful workout, go for it, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But it can be just a little bit of gentle stretching. Morning stretchings are amazing to just wake up. I like to think that healthy habits, they give us well-being in general. So introducing those moments for ourselves, I think it's very important, because a lot of people, they just rush into their days without giving their bodies or their minds the time to open up for the day. And then they feel overwhelmed with everything that message and that email and that call, they all pop in at the same time, and then you feel overwhelmed, and then
it's like you jump into everything else without checking in with yourself first. I mean, that's generally how it goes. I mean, I've done that a hell of a lot. Like I say, maybe the last few years, perhaps not, but I remember times where it's like, as soon as you're waking up as late as possible to rush into the bathroom and rush out the house and head to work, and without having perhaps being present for yourself, whether it's I don't know, gratitude, or like you say, stretching or meditation, or wherever your practice may be. I think it's a lot more beneficial in terms of checking in with yourself than just diving headfirst into all the stuff the world's got ready and waiting to throw at you. And
what I love about this is that you can actually shape the practice that you want to develop for yourself according to your taste. It's not that everyone has to enjoy lighting a candle or incense, and you can have anything that really makes you feel comfortable. It can be a fishbowl, and you meditate on the fish going around in the fishbowl. It's really up to you. Everyone has different tastes, and I think it's about honoring yourself. Every day you find a time to honor yourself in everything that you are. So your breath, your body, your mind, your energy, your heart. And so I guess ultimately the key to finding harmony is to connect to your heart, which has been devalued a lot, because everyone thinks that the mind is the only one that is to control how you live. But because a lot of people, everyone has suffered for some reasons, like some heartbreaks, and then it's hard to trust others, and that means that you don't trust yourself, because everything that you experience with others is really a mirror to what you experience. So that's what we were saying about the inner work. The inner work is important, because anything that doesn't work in your life is basically a mirror to something that you do not have resolved within
yourself.
And because everyone have to heal some sorts of wounds, whenever in time, whether it was when you were a kid or when you were a teenager, everyone had some traumatic experiences. We all have to admit to ourselves that we had been wounded, and that it's okay, we're healed, and we move on. As long as we do not admit that specific episode was a trauma and has to be healed, we are rejecting a part of ourselves, and we are holding on to an inner division, which doesn't allow us to make us whole. And because the micro scale is just a reflection to the macro scale, if we do not heal individually, hardly we will heal as a species, as a whole. And this is the precious time. This is why I think the pandemic comes in a great moment in
Yeah,
history where we have the technology, we have this, like this is precious, the fact that we are here speaking about these things and that we can share these to others and maybe inspire others to do the
yeah,
work. This is where the change happens.
yeah. There's been no better opportunity or circumstances, I guess, up until now, for like the cauldron of all the things that are happening at the same time to be happening, And then I think in the long term, the how we are going to evolve out of it and what we do experience in the years to come ahead will be on the back of how many people decide to, like you say, look within themselves, or how many people decide to succumb to perhaps the fear rhetoric and other things out there. Because I was going to say, in terms of the governmental reaction, without getting too controversial or anything, I think I can't help but feel a lot of the reaction has been made as to serve, I don't know, the same things that were causing the problems in life before, as in corporations or the man, basically the kind of money thing. And not to say that there's anything wrong with being ambitious and stuff, but it seems as if they've capitalized on the pandemic in order to push certain agendas that they were working on perhaps long before it happened. Which again, I think that's what brings rise to that whole conspiracy theory kind of aspect of things, because it's ironic how certain things, it's like, what's the chances of you having a whole, I don't know, yada 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 thing, and then this happens, and then you've got the solution. That to me, I think it can raise eyebrows, but it seems, my opinion is rather that I think the inner work, regardless of perhaps the governments and the thises and the that's, it's people waking up, finding themselves, and then trying to build a life on the back of that, knowing that life is happening for you, not to you. Then, then in years to come, we can, look back and say, well, damn, that was a stressful time or whatever it was back then, but it's the most growth I've ever experienced. And it was ultimately a positive catalyst. That's my hopes anyway. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's how I'd like to move optimistically.
I agree 100%. I think that what we do in the present is key for the world that we will see tomorrow. And in many ways, we are a generation. I personally felt it so strong since I was young that things weren't right. Like, there are many things that were made wrong, unhealthy lifestyles, promoting toxicity. Why would in movies would we see that, smoking cigarettes is so cool? Like, why do create these addictions? And so division was always the key to that kind of like promotion. And then right now, I think a lot of people are awakening to the fact that we want health, we want unity, we want kindness, and this is possible only if each one individually start to work on these values right now. There is no other moment.
Yeah.
The future doesn't exist yet. We create it with our actions and our intentions in the present. And the past is gone anyway. So, Here's another thing that in yoga I always really appreciate is that we work to stay present as much as possible, because whenever we live in the past, we are living in regret, but it's gone. And there is nothing to do. So we have to heal the wounds of the past, and we have to be present to cultivate our energy so that will manifest in the future.
Right. Yeah, that makes so much sense. I mean, regret and lament and all those emotions, I think they shackle you to, I guess, negative experiences or energies. And I mean, you do have to acknowledge and learn and grow from things in your past, but it does come a point where I think some people are literally prisoners of whatever it might be, whether it's experiences brought on by what they've done or that was done to them. I think you need to compartmentalize every experience and then always ask yourself, is this serving my highest good, putting so much attention into whatever it is that I'm putting attention into. Perfect. Now I'm going to wrap it up because I know you've got a class not too long and it took a bit longer than we planned to get online. But just a couple last things. So what have you got coming up in the next couple months, and where can my listeners find you? I will put a link in the description for your Facebook and for your Instagram. But if you could just let me know.
Yeah. So depending on how the pandemic goes. But yeah, I'll be starting a new calendar for my activities here in Milan. So I'm hoping to be able to do some outdoor events.
Cool.
As I was saying, like I'm working on inviting people to reconnect with the natural cycles. So my events are often connected to the solstice and equinox,
Cool.
or cycles of full moon and new moon. And these are like for outdoor events with sun healing. I do teach yoga, and I also do sun healing with the Tibetan singing bowls. So those are gonna be nice events that I'll do here in Milan. I am also active on Instagram. I sometimes do some live sessions with breathwork meditation.
Cool.
And I'm always doing my online classes here. Hopefully, like I'm planning to go in Sardinia, which is an island here in Italy for the season, in summer.
Nice.
There, and then whenever it will be possible, I will come to London and visit you, my friend.
We can break some bread. No, that's nice. I was going to ask is you kind of answered. So you've got some stuff online. So if people are perhaps interested, they could just, I don't know, reach out to you on Instagram and
online yoga sessions, online meditation, pranayama. I do tailored programs, like if people want to work on their wounds and inner work, so we can develop a program of techniques, whether it's breath work, meditation, or asanas, which are the physical postures that help through the physical body to heal the emotional body.
Perfect.
And the energetic body. So I guess that contact me and we can see if I can help with that.
Excellent. Leila, thank you so much for being my guest this week. It's been a really interesting conversation, and again, I mentioned this to Carl, who's my first guest as well. I would love to develop a relationship ongoing, because I definitely want to make this more frequent, and really I want this to be my little, I don't know, my pet project. I want it to grow very far, and I would love you to be a regular guest, or at least maybe twice a year or something, or whatever it might be. If you could, I don't know, honor us with your insights and stuff again, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Count me in. I'm very glad that you're putting this together. This is amazing. Well done.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank
Perfect.
you so much, everyone, for listening. And namaste.
Namaste to you too. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off there. I'll put all of Leila's information on the link in the description, so anyone that wants to reach out, and I look forward to the next one. Peace and love to everyone.